Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing a full psychological autopsy on arguably the most heavily debated television breakup of all time, Ross Geller and Rachel Green. For over 25 years, people have literally shouted at each other about this one single pop culture moment. But you know what? Today, we're going to look way past all that surface-level drama, dig deep into their actual character histories, and figure out what really went down. I mean, ask anyone about this famous couple and you're immediately hit with one question, right? Were they really on a break? It's an absolutely incredible hook. But here's the surprising thesis for our explainer today. That specific argument isn't actually what killed the relationship at all. It's really just a massive distraction.
Okay, let's dive into this. While this quote is completely culturally iconic, shouted in sheer frustration on screen and defended by millions of fans for decades now, the real reasons for the relationship's collapse are much, much deeper. Once we look past this one famous line, the whole breakup starts to make a lot more sense.
Section 1. Seeds of their downfall. Pre-existing conditions.
So, to really understand this collapse, we have to look at their foundation. The wild thing is, the very things that made their eventual pairing so satisfying for us as the audience were the exact things that doomed them right from the start. Think about it. Ross brought some serious, deep-seated trauma into this relationship. After his first wife, Carol, left him, he was left with this profound, lasting fear of abandonment. Meanwhile, Rachel was on this massive trajectory of personal growth. She was actively transitioning from a runaway bride who basically lived off her dad's credit cards into this fiercely independent woman. So you've got one partner utterly terrified of losing what he has, and another who's absolutely desperate to spread her wings.
Section 2. The Bloomingdale's Catalyst.
Now, that underlying emotional disconnect brings us right to the inciting incident. Rachel lands this incredibly demanding new job in the fashion industry at Bloomingdale's, and suddenly their fragile foundation is put to the ultimate test. It's like the saying goes, fear creates threats that don't exist. Enter Mark, the coworker who helped Rachel get that job. Ross's jealousy flared up almost instantly, leading to these absolutely absurd overcompensations, like literally sending a barbershop quartet to her office. No way that was a good idea. Rachel consistently rejected his accusations, but you see, Ross's jealousy wasn't based on any actual facts. It was a phantom threat rooted entirely in his own unresolved fear.
Section 3. The Anniversary Disaster.
All of this unchecked tension inevitably escalated into what felt like a slow-motion car crash on what was actually supposed to be a romantic milestone for them. If we look at it from Ross's perspective, he genuinely thought he was playing the romantic hero, bravely bringing a picnic and a peppermill to her office to celebrate. But from Rachel's perspective, oh man, she was drowning in a critical work crisis, trying to put out literal fires. To her, she felt professionally disrespected, totally smothered, and really embarrassed in front of her brand new colleagues. It's tragic because neither partner possessed the empathy in that moment to just see the other's reality.
Section 4. A fatal misunderstanding.
Well, the fallout from that disastrous office picnic led straight to their emotional breaking point. When Rachel finally threw out the phrase that they should take a break, her meaning was actually pretty simple. She just needed space to cool down, to breathe, and to separate her overwhelming new job from all their fighting. But Ross, because he was filtering literally everything through his abandonment trauma, he heard a completely different sentence. He heard, "The relationship is officially over." It's wild to think about, just one single phrase, but two completely different realities during a highly, highly emotionally charged argument.
Section 5. The Night in Question.
So Ross leaves the apartment, emotionally devastated, which kicks off this incredibly rapid, catastrophic sequence of events. First, you have the evening fight. Second, a heartbroken Ross hits the club that night just to distract himself. Third, during a late-night phone call where he's actually trying to fix things, Ross hears Mark's voice in the background over at Rachel's apartment. Now, Mark had invited himself over, but for Ross, his absolute worst phantom fears were just suddenly validated. And 4, by early morning, feeling completely, utterly betrayed, Ross sleeps with Chloe, the copy girl. When the terrible truth finally comes out the next day, the core issue for Rachel is really the betrayal of speed. Yeah, the infidelity with Chloe was obviously devastating, but Rachel was fundamentally broken by the fact that Ross moved on mere hours after their argument. To put that into perspective, from her point of view, someone who truly, deeply loved her couldn't possibly pivot that fast, completely regardless of whatever the technical definition of a break actually is.
Section 6. The Real Relationship Lesson.
So if we shift our focus from the symptoms to the actual disease here, we can really appreciate the brilliant moral ambiguity the writers intentionally created for us. They definitely didn't give us a simple hero or a simple villain. Instead, we find the real reasons this relationship failed. Unresolved emotional trauma, unchecked jealousy, a profound lack of professional boundaries, and just fundamental relationship-killing miscommunication. The whole break argument wasn't the cause of the fire, guys. It was literally just the match that lit the powder keg.
Honestly, the sheer brilliance of the writing here is that both characters made these deeply, deeply human mistakes. Ross let his jealousy and his need for control completely override any healthy boundaries, which culminated in a disastrous attempt to hide the truth about the night before. But then, on the other hand, Rachel utilized terrible timing and incredibly unclear communication during a massive conflict. Throwing out a vague phrase like, "take a break," when emotions are running at their absolute highest? Not great. They both made highly realistic mistakes that ultimately destroyed their mutual trust.
Ultimately, we see that love requires trust, not control. This breakup, as agonizing as it was for viewers to watch at the time, was actually a necessary turning point. It forced Ross to slowly realize that he couldn't just control his partner out of fear, and it forced Rachel to become way more confident in balancing her love life with her newfound independence. Simply put, they had to break apart so they could eventually grow.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative question to ponder. Are your unspoken fears dictating your actions? It's so easy to judge characters on a screen, but it's a lot harder to look inward, isn't it? Before your own fears turn into actions that you simply can't take back, take a moment to reflect on your own communication habits. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.